Hi, welcome to Professor Kev Show. I got my friend Beth with us from the UMass Career Center. Hey, Beth, welcome to the show.
Hi, Kevin. Glad to be here.
So, Beth, in this segment, I want to talk about what to do when you're actually at the career fair. So, we mentioned earlier there might be up to 120 employers at this event. Now, class, please understand you cannot talk to all of them. You're only going to get a minute or so with each person. Beth, how do they select who to speak to? How do they know who's going to be there and be able to make a plan? All right, I know I'm only going to get to, a dozen or so. How do I know who to choose? And is it important to go over their website to know about the opportunities? To me, it seems like it'd be really good if I'm like, Beth, I want to talk about this opportunity. It shows I did my homework a little bit.
Yes, yes, you are almost definitely going to have to prompt me to come readdress the last part of what you said.
Yep.
Um, but in terms of the preparing, find out who's there in advance.
Yep.
I'm a big fan of take as much stress off your plate as possible ahead of time. So you have prepared your attire, you have printed your resume, you have gone on Handshake and looked at the full list of employers attending, and then filtered down. There's a filtering system. You can filter down by who has jobs versus who has internships versus who has co-ops, by industries represented,
Wow.
by geographic area. So filter down to make yourself a nice short list of employers that you're going to have the most value speaking to.
Yep.
When you arrive at the fair, you're also going to receive a physical handout that lists all of the employers attending. And so you'll get an alpha order list, but you'll also get lists broken down by industry type. So if you did not do the advanced preparation, you will still get a hard copy
Good.
version
Yep.
when you arrive. I actually really recommend downloading the Handshake app in advance as well, because then if you're sorting through a lot of papers and then you've got your resumes and you've got all the information you've gathered from employers, it might just be easier to pull your phone out and do
Yep.
your filter system. Um, a couple days before the career fair on Handshake, we'll actually list the booth numbers for all the employers, and then the packet will list all the booth numbers. So when you are there, you can make your strategic plan of who you're going to hit in what order.
Yep.
Particularly for the fairs at the Songus, it's helpful to use that as part of your preparation, because you don't want to be up on the concourse, down on the floor, up on the concourse, down on the floor. That's not a great use of your time, and not for nothing. It's
Yep.
tiring.
Yep.
It's tiring to be up and down those stairs. So when you are prepping, do go to the company websites. Go to the company websites and learn about who do they serve, what do they do, what do they make, what's their mission, what's their value. And on Handshake, you're going to see what sorts of opportunities they currently have posted, what sorts of opportunities they're hiring for. When you're approaching the employer, it is really helpful to say, not just, here's who I am, tell me about your company, but here's who I am, here's what I know about your organization. And I saw on Handshake, you have these kinds of opportunities posted.
Winner.
Insert open-ended question here.
Yep. So, Beth, we mentioned that there's 120 or so employers. How many does it logically make sense to target that day? Because you're not going to get even the half. What's the number that the average person can speak to in that amount of time?
Mm-hmm. Different folks will go at different paces. Different employers will hold conversations for different lengths of time. I usually say 15 is a
Okay.
really nice, healthy list,
Yep.
because when you think about, from, you might wait in line.
I would say you might have to wait in line.
Yeah. So let's say you might be waiting in line. You're actually having your conversation. You're then stepping away, gathering yourself, maybe taking some quick notes about the conversation you just had or who you just spoke to so you can reconnect later. And then moving on to your next person. That whole thing might be a 10-minute process.
Yep.
Might be a 5-minute process, but it might be a 10-minute process. So 15, I find to be a really healthy list.
Good.
And then if you have more time after the fact, wonderful.
Yep.
Um, to that point, if you're really nervous going into the fair, don't start with your number one employer,
That's
right?
simple advice because I would be honestly, Beth, because I'm trying to get to all the companies I want to speak to. Oh my God, look at the line at the first one.
Right.
I could very easily go into spin mode on that, like, oh my God,
Mhm.
it's going to be 3 hours before I even get to this one and stuff. So
Yeah.
this one thing before we go forward, because you emphasize this, and I'm like, oh my God, I got to make sure I make this point. Handshake, it has to be filled out best it can be because of scanning the QR codes. They want to see everything about you, not just your name, right?
Yeah. Yep. So your handshake is very similar to a LinkedIn profile. You can actually use your LinkedIn to feed into your handshake profile. And LinkedIn and handshake are very similar to your resume. So this isn't all a whole extra job you have to go to. You're updating your resume anyways. Just copy and paste the content from your resume over to your handshake profile is a really good jumping off point.
Yep. So now we're there. I get in front of the employer. Let's talk a little bit more about how do I stand out? Because I try to
Mm,
tell my students, think about the other side, the employer. How overwhelming is it for them to have hundreds and hundreds of students
yeah.
applying, and you're doing your best to recruit the best possible people for your company, and you're trying to remember, oh my God, I really like that one woman. Was it Beth? Was it, what was her name? It has to be overwhelming for the employers too.
Yeah, absolutely. And think too about if the employer is having the same conversation with every student, no one is standing out. So you want to make a conversation that is different. That is part of how you stand out. So, how do you make your conversation different? One, have a prepared introduction. Know how you want to introduce yourself. This should include your class year, your major, and a relevant highlight about your experience, your skills, your projects, something of that nature. And then say, here's what I know about your organization. And here's why I was excited to see that you're here today. That alone, demonstrating knowledge of and passion for the organization, stands out a lot because when people are trying to decide if they're going to hire you at the end of the day, they want to know, can you do the job? Do you want to do the job for them? Are you a fit for the team?
Yep, yep,
So the career fair, this quick introduction you're going to have to these employers is actually a great way to give them a taste of all three of those pieces.
yep.
So showing interest in the organization, and I did my homework. I know that your organization has an expertise in X or serves this kind of population, and I have some project experience in that or some volunteer experience relevant to that I'd love to bring to the table. And then ask an open-ended question that requires them to not just give the spiel that they're going to give everybody.
Makes sense.
That makes your conversation unique.
Beth, we also have to talk about appearance.
Sure.
That's another way to stand out. It's not the day to wear your
Mhm.
baseball hats or, dress very casually. Let's go there. Let's be politically correct. How do and it too, we talked about this, Beth. Not everyone has fancy, interview clothes, but
Mhm.
you can borrow a jacket. You can go to the event you told me on the 20th.
Yes, and let me triple check that it is the
Yeah,
20th.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's okay.
but there is
Yeah,
a business attire pop-up shop happening on campus where
I love
students
that.
can get free access to clothes to keep. This is not stuff you're renting. You get to
Yeah.
keep this attire.
Right, yeah. And that's important, but like you said, I was laughing. I just spoke a little high yesterday and I did a picture of me in high school and I was wearing my daddy's blazer.
Mm.
Because like you said,
Mhm.
borrow, but you don't need to go and buy something. Hey, I know my friend is my size and he has a blazer. Go borrow that, and making sure that everything you have is neat and ironed and clean type of
Mhm.
thing. I know we joked, the holes in your jeans is very fashionable still, but that's not what you want to wear that day.
Right, because that's not even clothes you would wear to the workplace.
Yep. Hopefully. you know. But all kidding aside, Beth, it does make you stand out. You
Mhm.
took the time to research the company.
Yep.
I saw this opportunity. This is why I'm a good match for this. And you took the time to dress up, showing respect to the
Mhm.
recruits.
Right.
Seems like a winning ticket.
Absolutely. All of that adds up to a really great first impression.
So, Beth, what's the best way for people to learn more to be able to prepare for the career fair? Just one last thing before we go there. Please, please, please bring your resume to the Career Center. Make sure that there's no typos. Everything looks the way it's supposed to look. Because, again, we're scanning lots of resumes, and a simple typo is enough, unfortunately, to put you in the rejection file. So
Mhm.
please use the resources. If you can mention the drop-in again one more time. I know
Yeah.
a couple times, but I really like that because again, students trying to balance time, hey, I have 15 minutes right now. I can go over and get a quick review of it. Makes things convenient in my eyes, at least.
Absolutely. So we have drop-in hours in our University Crossing 450 office, in O'Leary Library on the third floor, and on Zoom. So when students go to career.uml.edu, at the very top of our website, there's a big blue button that says meet with an advisor, and
Yep.
that will bring you to our drop-in information, as well as our scheduled 15-minute resume reviews if you just need something physically on your Outlook calendar to keep yourself accountable. Either of those will show you options. The other piece I will note is if you haven't been on Handshake before, same thing, career.uml.edu. You'll see a big blue button at the top that says Access Handshake, and students can log in from there.
Awesome. Beth, I appreciate you taking a few minutes to come on the show. And as always, thanks for being my friend.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin.